After watching Porco Rosso, many people should wonder, so what happened between Porco and Gina? I'll give you an answer. The next topic, why is he a pig? Maybe a little introduction of this topic. The full description of this will be in the paid part. The answer to why is Porco a pig? And I'll be talking about some small facts for appreciating the film 10 times more. So today's lecture will be roughly divided into 3 parts. I see Porco Rosso. I see this as an autobiographical novel of Hayao Miyazaki. The autobiographical novel is a literary genre where the story is linked to the author's personal experiences and feelings. This is quite a popular style in Japanese literature. When I was in junior high and high school, I was forced to read this stuff in Japanese language class, and I didn't like it. I mean, you can be a writer without experiencing interesting or exciting events, you know. Those people try so hard to write autobiographical novels using some kind of metaphor of their inner world. But I was a teenager and wanted to read stories. Stories with a series of exciting events. That's what I wanted. So I didn't quite get autobiographical novels. Still, Porco Rosso, which is obviously an autobiographical novel of Miyazaki, I enjoyed it a lot. He shared his inner world in the form of a well-made entertainment film. This is how I saw it, and I'll get into this later. But these autobiographical novel-like works, another typical example of which is Evangelion, a deep analysis on such works is not quite healthy. I mean, it can have a negative impact on your mental health. The perspective I'll be introducing to you, I mean, if you stick to this, you'll no longer be able to simply appreciate Ghibli films. You will lose the innocence of simply watching them. So, if you're a boy or a girl who sees or wants to see Porco Rosso as nothing more than a fun film with lots of funny events involving fun characters, I strongly recommend not watching this Otaking seminar. But if you are a grown-up and enjoy seeing things in detail and in many perspectives, you can enjoy a deeper insight on the works. That's what I want to share. So please come back when you grow up. Okay, so today's lecture will be like a Ghibli analysis for grown-ups. Oh, and there is another reason why I told you that the work is an autobiographical novel. I have to warn you that there can be many cases where the author does not realize or thinks no one will realize what he or she hid in the autobiographical novel. So, if you ever meet Miyazaki in person, do not tell him what I told you. If you do that and crush or offend the artists, we are the ones who will pay the price. Please enjoy it with people around you, excluding Hayao Miyazaki. Feel free to talk about it with Toshio Suzuki, but not with Miyazaki, please. Okay, what happened between Porco and Gina? What is their story after the ending? I'll give you an answer to that. This is a cut from a scene quite close to the ending. Here we go. This side. Can I put it here? Okay. This image shows Fio's monologue. And did Gina win her bet? That's our secret. The answer is easy. It's shown in the film Porco Rosso. You see, there is no one in this pavilion, indicating that no one knows what happened. This shows Fio going to Porco's... this scene shows Fio, in the end, all grown up, and she flies to Hotel Adriano on her jet. A plane supposedly designed by herself. Here you see... Okay, you see it here. Right here. There is a red plane docked. I think many people noticed this. I want to introduce some other details I found in this scene. This is Fio's designed plane. It's quite nicely designed. Flaps are tilted down nicely. Air brakes are open. And these things on the front side, they're leading edge slats. These are for producing turbulence and thus producing lift for landing. And they are open. Quite intricate. Now, I'll show you the enlarged view. It's much easier to see. The enlarged view clearly shows Porco's plane. It's docked on this pier. This pier leads to Gina's... it directly leads to Gina's private garden. That's where this red Savoia is docked. So when you simply watch this movie, you think that Porco must have returned to Gina. He visited Adriano in the daytime and turned back into a human. That's how you normally see what has happened to Porco and Gina in the end. Of course, you can see the ending in this way. As I mentioned earlier, it's like a multi-level structure where each level takes you deeper toward the inside of the creator's mind. Nothing is wrong with the normal interpretation. After the duel, Fio kisses Porco with the messed up face, and that turns him back to human. This happy ending is fine. Even if he cannot turn back to human, he lives together with Gina. A slightly bittersweet ending. This is fine too. Still, Miyazaki has drafted an alternative ending, which branches off from the actual storyline from this point. This point with Fio's monologue that I just mentioned. After she says, "And did Gina win her bet?" That's our secret. According to what is written in the storyboard, a sudden jet whining sound cuts into this scene. Sorry for the portrait view. I know it's difficult to see. A jet airliner suddenly fills the screen like this, and Porco's plane overtakes it. You can see Porco's plane from the inside of the airliner. This thing with a contra-rotating propeller is flying faster than sound at super high altitude. And Porco giving a thumbs up while overtaking the jet plane, and then the movie ends. So this was the originally drafted... No, not originally. This was the final scene Miyazaki planned until the last minute. You can see Savoia overtaking a jetliner that seems to be a Boeing 727. The image has a background and it's finished on an animation cell, so they must have shot this scene. I've heard it was shown only to people traveling on JAL international flights, but now the truth is unknown. I mean, Ghibli publicly announced that they showed the film on the JAL planes flying internationally. They did show the film, but they never said they showed this alternative ending. I'm not sure I can trust people saying they saw this scene, but you can see from this quality, I think they shot it to be shown to the passengers on the plane. In Model Graphics, published May 1992, more than 20 years ago, Miyazaki did an interview and said he cannot wait until he can draw this scene. There is one cut where Savoia flies with a turboprop engine and contra-rotating propellers. It overtakes a jet airliner. It'll be so exciting. That being said, he must have made the scene. But actually, it didn't go on the theater screens. From this emblem on the tail of the plane, I guess this is a plane of Lufthansa Germany. This brand new Boeing 727 is flying. It indicates that the year is between 1963 and 1965, I guess. Porco was born around 1892. So, he should be well in his 70s, but not quite 80s. It's not impossible for him to be alive and still flying. So, how does Porco in his 70s, maybe around 75, look like? This is how he looks. This image is also finished on an animation cell with the background. So they must have shot this scene. He doesn't forget to wear a flight suit for flying in the stratosphere. You cannot see his face. Here you can see the heart mark with the letter G. This is what is known as a kill mark. And I guess it's safe to assume that G stands for Gina. So, is this a sign saying Gina is mine, finally? Or does this say, Gina shot me down, she broke my heart? I don't know. The point is, Porco, whether he is a man or a pig, we don't know, he is giving a thumbs up while overtaking the jet airline. What this is that this is identical to what I explained in the last lecture. Girls gather around the windows of a tourist plane, which is flying over Adriano, and yell, "Hey piggy, he's so cute." Porco goes, "Be careful or pirates will get you." And the girls go, "He's so cool." You see, it's the exact same gesture. This exact same gesture, it's the creators making. How should I put it? Something of visual parallelism. Oh, I'm sorry. This can only be interpreted as visual parallelism. You see, these are identical scenes, and what this means is that in the latter one, Porco in his 70s is still fooling around with an airline and enjoys seeing girls inside that plane go crazy. He's making a gesture saying, "How cool am I?" and just flies away. And that was the closing scene. It rhymes with the opening sequence, where Porco flies around the tourist airship, taking a round trip around the islands. Miyazaki even matched the traveling direction of the plane and the layout of the image of Porco, so that people can notice the parallel relatively easily. So, in summary, it goes something like this. On that summer day, there was the duel between Porco and Curtis. About 40 years later, Fio visits Hotel Adriano. When she comes near the hotel, she finds the Savoia docked to the pier and realizes that Porco lived happily with Gina. The ending, level 1. People who normally see the film for the first time arrive at this level. But Gina's pavilion, nobody was there. Fio's monologue, "That's our secret," hints that her sweet little secret should have skewed into ending level 2. The ending level 2 goes like this. Porco's plane docked to the pier, this one, is actually quite old. An old Savoia that is no longer used. Porco is still flying in the sky now with the new Savoia, having the turboprop engine installed. That's why the pavilion was empty. He is doing his routine of flying in tandem with an airline and always remembers to give a thumbs up to the girls. This kill mark of Gina may be referred to as a marriage mark, since the heart mark can be something like a wedding ring. So the guy is married and wears the ring, but that does not keep him from going to bars and flirting. This is the level 2. My old lady is at home and I'm flirting with girls, but come on, it's not like I'm cheating on her. As I mentioned in the previous lecture, Porcorosso was supposed to be made for middle-aged men traveling on JAL international flights. So we married men, comrades, like the middle-aged men, call each other comrades. We middle-aged men have wives, so no cheating. We are married, we don't want to cheat, but let's not forget to be attractive to young ladies. That's the message this film embraces. So I suppose the original closing scene was deleted because they wanted to change the direction of the movie to not be dedicated to middle-aged men. The scene remained in the version they showed in the sky to be seen by the original targets. Nevertheless, in the version they released in the theaters, after the end credits, you see, here you go. This is the very last scene you see in the theater version. After the closing credits, Savoia flies over cumulonimbus clouds, flying at a super high altitude. This scene insinuates that Porco is still free. Even if he has decided to live with Gina, he would not have listened to Gina, hoping he would give up flying. So, he will be still living free, with his rules. I bet Miyazaki has decided that it suffices if this message can be imparted. If Miyazaki really wanted to focus on the relationship between Porco and Gina, he could have just put an old photograph on a table in the pavilion. That will speak enough about them. What Miyazaki wanted to depict was not the relationship between the two, but it was Porcorosso himself. It's his autobiographical novel, and the plane still flying indicates that Porco's mentality is not chained to Adriano, and it is still high in the sky. It may be a rather macho tone. He can't be tied down by a girl. That's how he is depicted, hence the final scene instead of the photo in the pavilion. So, now, I'll now share with you my analysis on Porco Rosso as an autobiographical novel. Enjoying a romance outside while the wife is in the home? Not adultery, just romance. The guy is not cheating, so we can cut him some slack. That's exactly what Hayao Miyazaki does in Studio Ghibli. Everyone in Ghibli knows, and Toshio Suzuki repeatedly talked about it in radio programs, his speaking gigs, and interviews. There is a documentary called The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness. This. Oh, it's shimmering. Here we go. A film, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, was released. In the film, you see a female staff member, Miyoshi. Other staff members call her Sankichi-san. The film depicts what it was like in the studio when they were making The Wind Rises. And this female staff member, Sankichi-san, was Hayao Miyazaki's personal favorite. I'll show you the table, the desk Miyazaki worked on. This was the desk, and you can see these characters in front of him. I'll show you the enlarged view. Here you go. These cute illustrated characters are cheering Miyazaki on for checking the key frame, and they are also counting down how many to go. They were drawn by this Sankichi-san, a very sweet lady with a young face. Anyone can see that she's Miyazaki's kind of girl. That's the type she is. She drew these pictures. In this documentary, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, Miyazaki and Sankichi-san are flirting like crazy. I'll give you an example. When Miyazaki finally finished drawing the storyboard, the first thing he did was go to her to tell the news, only to her. When Sankichi-san congratulates him, and then he, the Miyazaki, the king himself, waits for her to give her 5. Here, come on, he goes. But she doesn't know what the hell is going on. But soon she realizes and gives him 5, and they are in joy. You can actually see this scene in the film. Well, she is not the one special girl. Miyazaki always has his favorite girl, a female staff member, sometimes a writer for a magazine. I mean, his attitude is so obvious. Actually, he thinks he's hiding it well, and Toshio Suzuki just loves that. He says, Miyazaki is so cute, he thinks no one knows, with so much joy. Miyazaki's attitude toward his favorite girl is so much different from that toward the rest, so everyone knows. If you see it, you know the old man is into her. But this feeling, he platonically and strictly holds it back, and that's why Miyazaki thinks it's impossible for people to notice it. This documentary, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, was directed by a female director, Asami Tsunada. She saw them and realized what was going on between them. That's why she slipped in so many scenes and episodes involving Sankichi-san in the film. I mean a lot. How Miyazaki is in love, how he is relatively unaware of it, and how he thinks that no one knows. I won't say it's her cruel intention, but she meticulously captured such an attitude and edited those scenes to be recorded in her work. I mean, The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness really includes a lot of scenes with Sankichi-san. There are so many of them. The film even has a scene of her wedding ceremony. Actually, John Lasseter, an anime VIP, agreed to contribute to the film, and she shot his scenes. However, you see no scene where he has conversations with Miyazaki. John Lasseter's scenes were entirely cut. That's just impossible, and that just shows how much emphasis is on Sankichi-san. As I just mentioned, in this film, this documentary... Oh, it's shimmering again. So, she is going to get married. And she worries that Miyazaki will be devastated to hear the news. That would affect his work, so she cannot tell him. So the staff members tried to decide who's going to tell him until Toshio Suzuki stood up saying, "I guess it's the job I have to do." What the hell is his job? What is he talking about? What the hell is this conversation in the first place? Anyway, Suzuki tells Miyazaki he wants to have a talk with him on the studio rooftop. I think I have told you this. This scene is in the film. The director Tsunada took this scene from afar, so you can't hear their conversation. You see Suzuki looking sideways and telling something to Miyazaki on the rooftop. Miyazaki is listening to him, kicking pebbles, and I think he is replying something like, "Got it." You can actually see this. It's in the film. Well, Miyazaki is not a child, and since he managed to keep things platonic, he recovers from the shock to even stand up and organize her wedding ceremony. You can see some photos of the ceremony on the web. Studio Ghibli has a blog, and they are in the diary page. The date is September 28th, 2011. Maybe you can check it out later. You see the groom and the bride in the ceremony, in the photos of their wedding. You remember the character Sankichi drew for Miyazaki? Those cute ones, cheering Miyazaki on for checking the key frames? Those characters. They're on... yes, in this picture. They were featured on their wedding cake. The bride and groom took a vow in front of Miyazaki, not in front of a priest, that actually happened in the ceremony. Incredible. It's just hardcore. I mean, this Miyazaki's rendition of romance, it's stoic and platonic, and I can't help feeling it's really cool. So Miyazaki is showing his attitude. What is cool? He is saying this is cool. So you can see him in the documentary commuting to Ghibli, bringing a packed lunch made by his wife every day. Commuting to Ghibli with the packed lunch made by his wife. And in the workplace, he has his small romance going on with some young lady. Just romance, not cheating, no problem. This is what is cool to him. He shows that, and I, as a middle-aged man, kind of get this. Just a regular middle-aged man married, gets an allowance from his wife. He uses the money for fun, maybe going to a bar for drinks after work. Maybe he flirts with a waitress or maybe a female manager there, but he never crosses the line. This is just such a typical episode of middle-aged men in the good old days. This kind of mentality of middle-aged men, those days, this weird blend of stoicism and lust, Miyazaki completely embraced it and turned it into a form of an autobiographical novel to confess that he is actually one of them. That's what fascinated me. I thought it was really cool. This rule, not cheating, no problem, this idea of Miyazaki actually seemed weird to Toshio Suzuki, so he kind of made fun of it. That pissed Miyazaki off. This episode was revealed in the Nico Nico live show. I think you could still see the video. It was back in 2012. And the show was a three-man discussion among Mamoru Oshii, Toshio Suzuki, and Kawakami. I'll tell you what happened.